Well, well, well. Doom the Dark Ages underperformed. Who could have possibly seen that coming? Who could have possibly come out and acknowledged that, considering Doom Eternal's poor reception among its core fan base, that the sequel would do considerably worse? Who could have possibly told you that an uninspired medieval themed Doom game would have underperformed? Who could have thought that Doom Eternal wasn't all that well received among the actual audience? And who could have possibly made a number of videos on the subject for the past 4 years? Who's come out and done that? Me. That's who. I predicted this years ago. I acknowledged right off the bat that Doom Eternal was awful. It was reprehensible. It was a huge step down from 2016, but the fanboys did not want to admit it. I don't know what it is, but like Doom is one of those IPs that seems to have this like religiously devoted group of like 20 something terminally online internet weirdos who think it's cool and badass to run around an open arena and like press ZT, the the right trigger, over and over again, shooting things and then like mashing R3 to like automatically kill something. It's like there's no real depth to the game. It's not complex, it's not interesting, it's not engaging, it's not some new, fresh, original thing. It's not even as good as the original Doom games. But Doom 2016 was something that was propped up and worshipped because gamers did not have anything else coming out that year. Right? Unless you were like me and were playing the far superior Star Fox Zero, you were still in this cultural zeitgeist of hating Nintendo and thinking that Nintendo was doomed to fail and thinking that like they were doomed essentially. Um, and it's really interesting seeing like that narrative slowly die down over the past couple of years, but it's also had like a weird like chain effect when it comes to like IPs that were previously worshipped that are now suddenly just like falling off the beaten path. I made a lot of videos talking about like how Final Fantasy 15 failed, and it's not until recently that like Square Enix has come out and like acknowledged it's a real thing and have like restructured as a result of that. And it seems that something similar is happening to id Software and Doom, right? Because Doom Eternal was absolutely hyped as like one of the best games of 2020, even though it wasn't the best game even released that day. But like there was this really big push to get people to see Eternal as like one of the best games ever made. It really was like this weird coordinated like AstroTurf push among YouTubers and a lot of other grifters to push this mediocre release as some major milestone in gaming. But in reality, I think most people who have experience with the Doom IP, who have played these games before, who know a lot about them, know that Doom Eternal is a massive step down from previous entries in a lot of different ways. When it comes to like the over design of the levels, the dashing mechanic, when it comes to like, just the tone and the story and the stupid theme, like the stupid like lore of it, right? Everyone who knows even the most basic thing about Doom knows that there is no plot. All you have is that you're a guy running around Mars like shooting demons. That's it. Like that's basically the entire thing of Doom. But like 2016, like Doom Eternal tried to give it like this weird like gravitas, like soap opera kind of like, no, you're the most feared things to the demon. It's like it was just like a blatant attempt to like kind of marvelize the IP and give it the same kind of like vibe and feel and like kind of stakes where like you're going around like killing the sorcerers and stuff like that. Like it doesn't suit Doom at all in any way, shape, or form. And there was this very strong unwillingness among like the Doom Eternal community to admit it, even though plenty of older people like myself were pretty adamant, right off the bat, like 2016 was better than this. And that's an opinion I think most people share today. But there were like very dedicated, hardcore Doom Eternal fanboys who acted like this was some masterpiece. But I think, considering the reception Doom the Dark Ages has had, seeing like the player numbers, seeing like how much interest has dropped off, I think it's safe to say general audiences were not that pleased with Doom Eternal. Like general audiences thought that Doom Eternal just didn't live up to the hype, that it wasn't as good as 2016, and that there's no real reason to check out Doom the Dark Ages when a new Nintendo console is on the horizon with the much better looking Mario Kart World as a launch game. You know, Doom is about to be wrecked by Nintendo's best-selling franchise after getting wrecked by their second best-selling franchise. You know, like again, like another L after L for Doom, you know. And this is the thing that like I've been saying a lot lately in regard to the Switch 2 and like the current state of things. Like there is no like pretending as if like Nintendo and Xbox and PlayStation are like competing for different markets, because that never was true, never will be true, never will never will be true. Like it was just a giant cope to justify how like PlayStation and Xbox still won the Wii generation, even though the Wii and DS combo was clearly way more popular with players in general. You know, New Super Mario Bros was way bigger than anything put out on the PlayStation 360. But the cope among the industry was that it couldn't possibly be true, because the real games were only on PlayStation and Xbox. You know, that's been the narrative since the PlayStation came out, right? You know, the real games are on this platform. And that's a narrative that's just slowly been decaying over the past 25 years, because it's not true and never has been true, but the general public was led to believe it was. But, you know, the people are starting to realize that like Nintendo is not some company that's on the verge of bankruptcy. At this point, it's something that like you get laughed at if you try and like act as if Nintendo is this corporation that's doomed to fail. Or like we saw this a lot with the Switch 2, actually, with all these analysts saying it was going to underperform. That's clearly not going to happen, but like it's interesting. You know, you see all these statements about how Mario Kart World is going to underperform. You didn't see anybody, nobody came out and like speculated that Doom the Dark Ages would do less numbers than Eternal. Like nobody really saw that coming. And I think that's a really strong indication of like where the industry is going, because you're going to have major tentpole like AAA franchises like this get released, you know, whether it's Wolfenstein the New Order or Doom or like Skyrim 2 or like, you know, Starfield or, you know, whatever like major AAA IP that gets made, Duskbloods, another one. Like you're gonna have these things come out, be propped up among the industry, hyped as being the greatest things ever made, and then like reality sets in, and then you realize that like, wait a minute, this stuff was not as popular as what Nintendo was doing around that same time. And that's always been my problem with Doom Eternal, is that like this is not a game that anybody's playing. This is not a game that anyone's talking about. It's not something that anybody cares for. And yet there's this religious minority of cultists who worship Doom Guy and think he's going to save us from like the woke mobs, when in reality, like Doom is very much part of the problem. Like the developers are not capable of innovating. They can't do anything new, fresh, or exciting. And Eternal and the Dark Ages proves that very, very well. The only reason 2016 was received as well as it was, even by myself, was because like it wasn't exactly the same as every other FPS on the market, but it's still not great. You know what I mean? This is the reality of the situation, is that Doom, one of the most overhyped IPs in existence, cannot compete with Nintendo.